Just a quick one before we get into this episode. If you're in the UK and you use supplements, I'd highly recommend checking out Reflex Nutrition, where they're giving up to 40% on all their range if you use the code PTRNT at checkout. I've been using Reflex for nearly a decade, with their microwave being one of my favorite whey proteins. It's grass-fed, hormone-free, and digests so well compared to most on the market. Check out their full supplement range, including all your transformation basics and plant-based alternatives on reflexnutrition.com and use the code PTRNT at checkout for up to 40% off. It's not long left now until the new book, Transform Your Body, Transform Your Life, is released. Sunday, 24th of May is the big day, and I can't wait for you to get your copy. Make sure you subscribe to our email list and social media for updates on book bonuses, previews, competitions, and giveaways. Exciting times ahead. On today's episode of RNT Fitness Radio, I'm joined by long-term RNTers Nim and Sonayna Chandran. Both of them are in lengthy investment phases, so I wanted to bring them on to discuss the power of this phase, the benefits it can bring, and how the journey continues to evolve as you go through it. Through this discussion, we talk about building the ultimate lifestyle solution around your unique 3 S's and rules, how to be coachable, and how to transform your body and life as a couple. So how are you finding the transition from being in the gym to training at home now?
We got a good setup. At home, we've got quite a heavy kind of weight set. But since COVID, my firm's been asked to support building the new Nightingale Hospital in London. So lockdown is different, not just in terms of what equipment we've got, but also like the last couple of weeks, what I've had time available. So
it's been different for both of us, hasn't it?
Yeah. No, so my focus when I've been speaking to you about it is, all right, whilst I'm doing kind of 16-hour days, how do I just maintain my investment? Kind of like in real life, right? How do you maintain your investments while everything's kind of tanking outside? So we've been kind of changing the structure to basically to a bit of maintenance for the last couple of weeks. But I think the worst of my project is now kind of finished in terms of work hours. So I think we've talked about what my structure would be with the kit that we've got. So dumbbells. So I'm looking forward to getting back into some serious lifting over the next just getting back to my old ways of 4 times a week and pushing some serious weights around, hopefully. So, a bit of an adjustment for me. What about you?
I've been really enjoying it. I've been still doing it 4 times a week. Nim got the dumbbells, we've got bands, we've got a pull-up bar. So I think I've been focusing more on my upper body strength. So which is going really well. Like I think I said to you, we're trying 2 or 3 chin-ups in the next couple of weeks, which is kind of my next short-term goal. But I'm just, I'm really enjoying it. I've got the time to do it. So it's cool.
What about that milestone, the first chin-up milestone that came at home? I remember I read your check-in where it talked about the smile and the little grin you had when you hit your first chin-up.
The next time I tried, he says look, because my legs are kind of kicking around everywhere. He was like, how long did it take you to get up? But you've got to just keep trying. Like you said as well, keep the chin up bar in the bedroom all the time. So whenever I'm going into the bedroom, it's just kind of trying to jump up and trying to get that little bit more. So I've been really enjoying it. And I think a really important thing that Nim has said is that no matter how crazy life is for you in terms of work, just tell your coach, because you managed to kind of say to him, at least do 1 exercise a day, at least do this, at least do that. So it's just kept you going. Yeah. Otherwise you can get yourself in a bit of a rut.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think I would have been in a rut if I didn't bounce that off.
We switched you to the 1 lift a day program.
Yeah, the bare minimum. But I've actually really enjoyed the program. I'm not saying it's the permanent program, but I'm actually seeing progression on my PRs with some of those lifts. So it makes me think man, even when I'm completely under the cosh on the other elements of life.
Well, it's just applied focus, right? I think you said I've only got a limited amount of time. I was like, we don't need to use this as an excuse not to do anything.
Yeah.
Let's do something. So just for the listeners, what we did is we just took his 5 to 6 key indicators and we just said, you're just going to pick one of them per day, spend 10 minutes ramping up to a top set and just call it there. And if you have extra time, do a back off set. And you'll be surprised how little you need to actually maintain your results. So doing something like a 1 lift a day in extreme circumstances can be beneficial.
No, but I'm back on it next week. I think that the hours next week are going to be back to normal. I did a couple of hours today work, but I think I can't run away from the real program. So I think we're back on it next week.
Never. I mean, just to go back to that chin up with Sonayna, with the smile, what she did.
Did you send in the video that I celebrated with you?
Probably a few of them.
Nah, the one she sent me was like, she did the chin up and then she was like smiling, but almost looking for someone else to like high five. And she just had this smug look on her face in her own bedroom.
Yeah, no, there is a video where, because I never saw that first chin up, and then she did another one while I was doing a floor press, and then I saw her get up, and obviously her first chin-ups were taking about 2 minutes. So as she was halfway, I was like, what's
so long? I've got a lot of body weight.
As she was doing it, she got there. I was ecstatic because I still remember her when she was, on the chin-up bar when it was, what was it, the negatives that she was doing. And I kept telling her, like, no, I'm sure you can do the one. And
even just doing one has taken that bit of time. Like we've been doing the slowly, the the reverse negative chin up.
The negatives, yeah.
One at a time and doing it, being really slowly with it. And now it's just trying to push more. And stands are helping to try and increase the reps a little bit as well. Yeah,
what I found with chin ups is once you get your first one, that's the hardest one. And then once you get that, you can start building up the reps. So you should find over the next 6 to 8 weeks, the numbers go up.
One would hope.
Yeah.
Just keep paying the toll.
Yeah.
Keep the chin up bar on the door, and every time you go past it, knock a rep out.
I guess upper body's more humbling than your lower body, right? Setting all kinds of crazy numbers with her hip thrust, but now that has to change in terms of the structure because you don't have the barbells and the...
I'm quite happy. I'm not really a fan of leg press and stuff like that, so I'm kind of happy I get to leave that away for a little while.
Yeah, that's probably one of the few exercises I'm missing. The leg press and the hack squat. Those two. Outside of that, I'm not too fussed about what I've got. I'm just having to do really high reps at the moment.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, because we've got up to 50 kilogram dumbbells. That's actually keeping me in quite low rep ranges until eventually. Well, one would hope that I would peak at that weight and then suddenly be doing higher reps. But right now, every single one of my dumbbell lifts doesn't need a higher number than that. Even RDLs, I've just hit 40, 42 and a half basically. So I've got a bit of time before and that's just 6 reps top set. So got a bit of time before I wear these out. And it's actually, it's made us think that I think in the future we'll have a little home gym setup. I think it's a good thing to have at your fingertips when you don't want to, spend, if you need to be at home, but you need to get your workout done, you can get it done. You don't know how many of these could happen in our lifetime, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm so happy that I had this set from 10 years ago.
Yeah.
When I went back to my parents and I saw it, and I was like, I don't know if they've sold it or not, because we talked about selling it a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Selling it on eBay, and I wasn't sure if they did it. And then we went back into the shed, found it right at the back. There was spider webs all over it, dust. I spent there I was outside cleaning them up, polishing them.
Yeah.
But these are my first ever weight set before I even joined the gym. So absolute lifesaver.
Yeah. And now they're probably worth 3 times the worth.
Yeah, just probably sell them. So Nimalan, you've been on the podcast before and you described your journey, your why, and we took you, this was about maybe a year ago.
Yeah.
I think we came on the podcast. So at the time, I believe you two had only just got married.
Yeah.
So Sonayna, what was your why at the start of this journey? What triggered you to start?
So for me, I've always kind of been into health and fitness, and always looking to improve my physique. But I think that I was just getting to a point where I was getting a bit stuck in a rut. So I was going to the gym, I was trying to eat healthy, but I wasn't seeing any major body changes. So I just thought there's something that I don't know, there's something that I've got to change. I've got to educate myself a little bit more. And obviously I was following what Nim was doing. I could really see the big changes that he was going through. So I think more for me, it was, I wanted to learn more. I needed to educate myself my diet, of what I was doing at the gym, and just so I could see these improvements. And I guess the first goal for me was just looking good, for the wedding. Like by then there was about 6-7 months to go. I wanted to fit really nicely into my Indian outfits. Kind of had a bit of a vision of what I wanted to look like. Wanted to see abs, and so I just wanted to kind of start with you and kind of go from there and get that education. And I'd seen all your transformations as well, especially of women, which made it more easier to relate to as well. So yeah, my why was just education and just kind of improving my physique really initially. But obviously that's definitely changed over time.
So let's talk about that then. How has it evolved over the time? Because you hit your checkpoint at your wedding. We actually got you into shape quite early, and then we had to reverse out. We did some muscle building, then we came back in to peak you for your wedding, and obviously that famous Maldives shot.
Baywatch.
Which I think we'll probably have to make that the image for this podcast. Yeah. The Baywatch couples picture. But after that, how did the why continue to evolve, and now where has it kind of led yourself? Where has it led to? Over the past 12 to 14 months.
I think I was quite lucky. I didn't have too much body fat to lose. I'm quite slim build anyway. If you want to call it, I was skinny fat. So there wasn't too much to lose there. So I think it was initially we lost some fat, and then I kind of wanted to maintain like that, even though we were trying to increase our calories again nearer to the wedding. I think I was scared, I guess, to put any weight on or to kind of lose these abs. So initially it was all about just trying to maintain that. And then very soon into the transformation, I could just see the overall benefits it was having to my mental health, to feeling stronger physically and mentally. So I think I just wanted to incorporate this just regularly into my routine to make me feel good. I think after the wedding, it was more about strength, building shape into my body, into my physique. So I know that we went on a bit of a glute program for a couple of months. So after the wedding, we kind of, I think we had a bit of a binge out on the honeymoon. So we wanted to just come back to basics, maybe diet a little bit. And then it was starting the muscle gains basically. And then we went on a glute program for a few months where it was literally working out 4 times a week on legs. So that was really, really good to start with. I was really, really enjoying it. But then I think it got a little bit tiring after. I remember someone coming up to me in the gym saying, all I see you doing every day is hip thrusts. But it worked. I think from the start of our program, I was I started with 67, maybe 50 kg with a hip thrust, and my top one now is 140 kg. So I was just kind of just going in. And every time I was going in, I just wanted to do better. So it just, each workout felt like just a new goal I wanted to achieve.
How did you find the idea of being in a muscle building phase as a woman? Because there's a lot of misconceptions and stigma around that, where women feel they're going to get bulky or, they're going to look like a man. All these different myths that you hear. How did you did you face that? How did you deal with it?
I don't think it was more about getting bulky, because I think I understood from the start that muscle takes a lot of time to grow. I think it was more for me about putting on fat again and putting on weight, because I obviously understood that you had to increase your calories and you had to do that steadily. And, I just got to the point that I wanted, and now I have to kind of change everything, and it will kind of look like that I haven't done anything again for a while. So I was just more conscious on the fat. So I'm still learning a little bit of that, I guess, to embrace it. But it wasn't more about the muscly.
So how do you deal with that mentally, that aspect? Because that can be difficult as well. You know, if you've worked hard to get into really good shape, and then you know that there's going to have to be a calorie surplus in order to build muscle and build that shape into your body as a woman. How do you mentally continue to push forward in that respect?
First and foremost, I think it's just basically, I just told you, I was really honest with you from the start that, like, you know, I'm a bit nervous about increasing my calories and doing this and doing that. So you just took things very progressively with me. So each week we would maybe either go up a little or just maintain. And it just made me trust you in the process a little bit more. So it just changed with time because you were with me on that journey. I don't know if that makes sense, but and because we were doing it slowly, I wasn't seeing that much of an increase. And then if I was gaining a pound here and there, I would just kind of use it to my advantage. So I just kind of think, right, I've got this weight, I've got this food inside me. Now I'm going to push. I'm going to really push at the gym. I just felt the food was my fuel at the gym. So that's kind of where my mindset was at the gym. I was like, it was really weird. I was telling Nim one day, I was like, I just had this massive bowl of porridge, peanut butter, bananas. We walked to the gym. And I was just like, right, I'm always going to like think of that bowl while I'm pushing through this leg press, because it just, I don't know, that's just how I felt. So it's like you always say, it's all in the mind. It's your mindset. And trying not to focus too much on what I look like, because ultimately it might be a few little pounds here and there. No one else is going to see it. Only you are going to see it underneath your clothes. No one else really knows what's going on.
Yeah, your food intake, we've managed to get it pretty high. At some points, it's been even higher than Nim's, right?
Yeah. I think that's we're the same height basically, or you're probably a bit taller. So
Taller.
Yeah. So yeah.
He gets so worried, like, you know, like I've got these extremely flat slippers that I wear around the house, and he's like, "What have you done? What have you changed about yourself if we're like having a little hug or something?" Because I'm like already that little inch taller than you.
Yeah, that's fine. That's cool. I've made up for it in strength, so that's cool.
All right.
Well, I don't know. Can you hip thrust 140?
I don't think anyone can hip thrust 140. Like I don't know anyone who's like, even guys I see doing like 80, 90, 100.
Guys really want a big bum?
Some of them do, yeah, for sure. I remember my very first program, I was on hip thrust, and yeah, I remember never getting past 60 or 70. Like, it's a really hard exercise when.
Yeah, but when it comes to legs, Nim, you're a bit of a, you know.
Well, the funny thing is, I've been pushing harder than ever since I did a couple of sessions with you. Like, when I took my brother and my cousin to for a leg day, like, I left them in pieces. Like, so it's all relative. So it's funny, like, you'll say that about like my intensity on leg day, but actually my intensity has rocketed up compared to like probably some of my, well, let's call them peer group. They're not peers anymore, I guess. But I feel like I've actually made gains on that in terms of how hard I push on a leg day. I
think the important thing is like not to compare. That's a big thing that I used to I do a lot. And I did a lot during our journey, because like if Nim was pushing really well on legs, but I was doing something different, it just wouldn't make me feel good. But like, I've got my own key exercises that I like to prioritize. He's got his own, and we're both going to be really different. We're both completely different in terms of our physique. It's going to be different in terms of our journey. So I really like my hip thrust. He really likes his leg press, and that's that. Like, you can't compare every single exercise.
I don't like them. I have a respect for them in terms of.
Okay, he doesn't like them. He looks so petrified before he's about to do leg day. He's like, you look like you're going to cry.
Yeah,
no, I don't want to do this.
Well, it's more because ever since I did a couple of those sessions and just decided.
Well, you did this to him, Akash.
Yeah.
He comes back a broken man.
Yeah. Every time that Widowmaker on the leg press, that is the one I miss the most as well. Even though it scared me, like, that's the one I miss.
Yeah, you can't replicate that, right?
You can't. Not that feeling, not the anxiety, not the death. No, none of that.
Sonayna, talk about the comparison thing you mentioned there. That's something a lot of men and women, both suffer from comparison syndrome, especially with social media and all the things you see in the media. how have you managed to navigate around that? Is that something you still struggle with? And if so, how do you kind of keep yourself in check with it?
Definitely something that I still struggle with. But I think the key importance to any change or change of mindset is awareness and acceptance. So I've now kind of become, I am aware that I do compare a lot or almost feel sometimes in competition in Nim. Kind of accept that, but now I'm kind of, I think in terms of just dealing with it, you're just kind of noticing when you are like that and kind of thinking, hey, like just take a step back. Like there's no need to compare. You don't know what's going on in people's lives behind closed doors, or you don't know what people's priorities are or what's going on. So you can't compare everything. I mean, it's easier said than done. But I think a lot of us do it, and something I am trying to work on, I think.
Yeah, I think I've done it as well. Like, because I mean, for men, it's the worst, right? You go on Instagram and you see these huge, jacked, shredded guys, and you're like, how has this happened? And then a couple of things was like just a bit of education, just knowing what they've done to get their physique there, you know, natural or otherwise, versus what is in the art of the possible, and then just accepting you're in a race with yourself, and that just makes it a whole different mindset. Because I used to think I had this perception of like how much I was going to weigh, and how much, you know, how lean I was going to be. But then I'm actually very much more comfortable that previous goal or previous thing I had in my mind since the kind of education of doing this process. It's like, well, you can't set that because it's unrealistic. Just beat what you're trying to do now right in front of you, instead of thinking what it's weird because obviously people saying goal setting, you want to describe where you want to be in 5 years. But actually what I found with kind of strength training, physics and kind of body composition stuff is actually just try and set yourself something that's a little bit more reasonable, like a year, like a 12-month goal rather than a 5-year goal. Because those 5-year goals will come with the kind of the progression of each 12 months. I think the 5 years looking like someone, you know, on social media, I think could be counterintuitive to what you're trying to do.
Also, just going back to the comparison thing, I think another way that I've kind of learned to deal with things is appreciating that you can bring different things to the table. So instead of comparing myself to Nim and say, Nim does this and Nim does that, and I don't do that, it's kind of like Nim brings this to the table and I bring something different. And then...
Sorry, Sonayna, are you talking more about like between you as a couple now?
And we just ended up there.
I thought that's
just for clarity, are we talking about you two as a couple?
Just, as a couple.
Okay, yeah, to touch on that, to speak about that, because that's probably something you're going to find interesting, is how do you do this? How you've done this as a couple? Has it helped? Has it not helped? Has that healthy competition been good for you guys? So potentially carry on from there.
I mean, Nim always says, like, don't see us in competition, see us as a team. Like, you always talk about team, and I'm always like, but I want to win, or you want to win, and I've just kind of got that mentality. But you always just say, like, you bring this to our relationship, I bring this, and we're the complete opposite in a lot of ways. Yes, we have similar morals and values. We're very opposite sometimes, but that's a really good thing. Like, it just means we complement each other well. We just bring those different things. So it's important to get out of your head to kind of stop comparing yourself with your partner or a friend or whoever, and just see that you bring different things to that relationship, that friendship.
Yeah. I think team, because just building on the team thing, it's like, I think it's been massively helpful, the fact that our lifestyles have converged into living like this, because I think I would have found it challenging if I lived like this and someone was sedentary and didn't want to eat a certain way. Like, I would find that, like, I'd be like trying to walk uphill rather than being in sync with the person. I think it would have been it might have been disruptive. So it's just, I mean, you can look at our fridge, like, it is just lined up with exactly what we're going to eat every day. And like, I think from the outside world, I don't know what the perception is, but I know in our little kind of bubble of being at home, like, it just works. So it's definitely helped in that way.
Again, like, the perception that Nim's one who just kind of doesn't care too much what other people think, which I think is quite a good thing sometimes, but I'm always like, oh, what are people thinking? You know, they're meal prepping again and going to the gym. Like, they're so weird. Like, I think I used to definitely think that from the start. Now I've just kind of learned to embrace it. And now we have people coming up to us, asking us questions. So that, again, has been a very long part and changing part in our journey, the perception of all this. But yeah, like now I'm definitely more comfortable.
Yeah, and like in terms of just other team stuff, like food and sync, I think when it comes to going to the gym together, I think we'll push each other. So I don't know why I don't take her seriously when she pushes me. She's like, come on, one more. Whereas
I'm trying to be like, you, Akash, I watch these videos and you're like, come on. So like, I try and do that, and he's like, no, shut up. Like, you just want me to stop.
Yeah,
I'm trying to be a cheerleader.
Yeah, no, but I make sure, like, well, hopefully you find me helpful when I'm pushing the intensity for you and trying to get you to do more reps. So yeah, so I think there's loads of benefits when you're in sync, doing it together. Food, training, lifestyle, just mindset. I think holding each other accountable when we need to, because we used to have this habit where Friday night would be a pizza takeaway or something like that, and now Friday night it's basically more about who's cooking, or I know that's probably more you than me now, but that's by the by. But like, you know what I mean? Like we're doing. I think we just there's just a whole, like, there's a plethora of things that I feel like we do to help each other that it would be hard to list out. It just kind of works without sounding cliche.
Give us some examples of this, because you're talking about your 3 S's and your rules. What have you put into place here? And what are some of these like rules that you have, that non-negotiables that keep you guys going?
So key one is like just meal prep. I do that on a Sunday like afternoon, and a Wednesday when I'm off usually. So they're really basic meals. Like breakfast we kind of like work out on our own, and lunch and dinner is pretty much set. So they're like non-negotiables kind of thing, and making sure all the shopping's in. That's one thing. And then it's just that and the gym. So during the week, we go at really different times. I prefer the morning. I like to get out of the way. Nim goes after work sometimes. And sometimes when he comes back from work, he's like, oh, you know, I'm tired. Shall I go? And, you know, then I feel it's my duty to be like, come on, you're going to go, because how are you going to feel after? Are you going to feel crap, or are you going to feel really good? You're going to feel really good. Even if you're feeling really tired right now, you're only going to come back feeling good. So we have to push each other in that way. So I just think the main non-negotiables is just the food prep and getting to the gym, and everything else is a bonus, I guess.
Yeah,
and good sleep. That's what you're trying to work
that's what I'm working
right now.
You've always had good sleep. Well, you're much, like when you look at your Fitbit data, it's way better than mine. Like, if I had your numbers, those are the numbers you'll beat me on.
Oh gosh, no. No.
If there was one thing that so would you say that the key thing for you, Sonayna, is the meal prep? If you get that meal prep done, everything else falls in place.
It just feels a lot easier. Yeah. I think at the moment during these COVID times, I'm using the time to kind of experiment a little bit, make new meals. So maybe things are a little bit different now, but also it is really easy at this time to like slack a little bit with your food. Like, you're more at home. All the Easter eggs are like £1 at Tesco. You're like, oh, shall I just buy them? Shall I have a treat for myself? But I think actually now more than ever, because we've lost a little bit of routine, or things have changed, you still need to keep everything in place. Luckily, I guess we're not going to restaurants, we're not going out to eat or drink as much. So it's been easier in that way. But yeah, I think we still need to try and maintain some sort of meal prep for sure at the moment.
I don't even like that rule is so ingrained. Like, I can't even call it a rule. It's like, it's so bedded into our consciousness that it doesn't even like feel like a thing. And you'll probably say it's because you do it.
Yeah,
it's just happening for you. That's why you don't know, man.
Well, the best rules.
Remember, we bring different things to the table, so I can't complain.
Nim, you haven't meal prepped for years. That's why you don't know.
It's either being your mum or it's being me.
Yeah, the best rules are automated, right? Like when they're just happening without you realizing. So, yeah. I do have it. I do have it good in that sense. Someone just that bit.
Well, let's speak about, so we talked about the meal prepping, and then you touched on socials and lifestyle. And this is something I want to touch on because in the book, I mentioned you two as a great example of people who've managed to work their social lives really into this lifestyle where it's very seamless. And this is something people use as an obstacle or a potential barrier whereby they say, oh, they can't live their lives or they can't do anything. Tell us about that and how you've managed to integrate a healthy lifestyle into your social lives and not actually interrupting it in any way.
I think it doesn't happen overnight. It's taken time. Like, you've been on this for 2 years. I've been on this for a year and a half. So it doesn't come quickly.
Yeah. I think I can describe specific examples of like I have quite a good memory of like specific examples of social occasions where I can see a progression. So the first one was when I was dieting, I was dialed in, and I just remember like I think social occasions when you're on the grind, I think there's almost a different set of rules. But obviously when you're doing the fat loss, I think it's a very there's a specific timeline where you have to be a little bit more diligent, I think. So I remember like ordering just meat and veg or meat and salad, because I was eating, obviously, when I was at work, every day was meals out. I was always eating Nando's, the same thing. Or if I went to a steak place, it was like literally a fillet steak and some veg, really simple. And then I remember when I first did investment, that's when you see all these calories and you just take the piss a little bit. That was my first cycle where I just couldn't instill the discipline of like how I used to eat. So I remember just blowing it every time, and then basically that just shortened my first investment cycle because I just ate quite badly. For years, eating out was just like eat everything on the plate, eat everything on the menu, feel like you've achieved something when you've done it.
That was what our date nights were all about. Like, you wouldn't see each other all week, Friday or Saturday. Like, it's not date night, it's almost like treat night. That's what it felt like. So how we're going to sit in this restaurant for this many hours, so let's order this much to eat, let's do that. And then that just never made us feel too good after, did it? Yeah, so that's the key. It didn't make us feel good, but almost the self-awareness was just lacking. I remember that first investment cycle, then kind of cleaned it up for the wedding, got that going again. And I think this is when your guys' kind of thought leadership started kicking in about the meal hygiene, all this stuff that maybe it was always in the locker, but like it became, you kind of promulgated it a bit more like later. So it was more out there about how to really address that kind of social thing around eating. I've never been a big drinker, so maybe you can touch on the drinking side of things. That makes it sound like an alcoholic. But like for food, I just remember just shoving everything on the menu in my mouth. And then when it came to the second time, I was like, okay, this was the thing that completely threw me off. So I've got to dial this in. And that's when we started learning. Like, we still did what we would do, but it was just like how you ordered in the menu. And I distinctly remember the second time round when I was doing this, where we would order food, and I just remember ordering less, like just ordering like just a main, like one side, or maybe share a starter and a main, and eating the whole, like, because I would hoover food in the past, like literally it would take me 20 seconds to polish the plate. I hated it. Like, we would go out to eat and I'd be like, the whole point is that I wanted to go out and enjoy each other's company and eat the food slowly, and you were just had eaten before we'd even started, basically. Yeah, I would just be head down, eat, and it would be gone. And then I just remember distinctly, like, we were going to a different place where we would order, like, and you know what we like? We like restaurants that are like smaller dishes, because what tapas style, like Japanese or tapas, right? So you'd order a couple of dishes, and what we did was eat them so slowly that in old versions of me and you would have ordered at least 3 more plates. New versions of me and you took the same amount of time to eat that amount of food. And I just remember just feeling that content feeling of like, oh, I'm not hungry, so I don't need to eat. Because I remember if I did eat, I would have felt like that blow, I would have felt awful. But like I said, that self-awareness of how all that indulgent food would have made me feel afterwards wasn't in my head. But this time I was like, you know how you're going to feel, dial it in, eat slower. And I just remember coming back from restaurants and stuff, feeling like, not feeling that kind of
hangover, like it's not a drink hangover, it's like a food hangover that you would get when you go out. That feeling just went away more often than not. I think there's been the occasion, there's been maybe a slip.
I agree. I've been like that with you at the restaurants, even just, whenever I think it's easy to control yourself a little bit more at home or when you're with your own meal prep, but when you are going to other people's houses, having something social, it is just stopping and recognizing, am I full? Do I actually need that another bite? Do I just want to wait a few minutes just to feel like how I'm actually feeling? And also, like, something that I think I picked up from one of your podcasts is just almost just be mindful when you're eating. So if I'm watching TV and like have a bag of crisps or a bag of popcorn or something, you just don't even know what you're eating, kind of thing. You don't know how much is going inside your mouth, but it's maybe just eating when you're not actually doing anything. So you're just focusing on that. Obviously, you can't do that all the time, but that's just kind of one tip. Another thing I want to touch on is buffering, because I used to feel like I was the buffer queen. I was like, oh yeah, I've got all these calories. Like when I was dieting, for sure, I used to get so excited. I've like saved up all these calories. I'm going to eat something good when I'm going out for that social at the weekend. And initially, during the diet phase, it worked really well. But then after that, when we were investing or just increasing the calories a little bit more, I was still kind of focusing a little bit on buffering, which wasn't good, because I would then get even more, I guess, greedy. I'd be like, right, I'm going to like reduce my calories each day by 100, feel a little bit shit and hungry every day, and then like blow out on that weekend or something. And then I just realized that I was using so much mental energy during the week that it felt really draining to be like, right, we're doing all this, we're like saving all these calories, we're dieting a bit, feeling a little bit more hungry, just for this one brunch or this one meal on Saturday. And I just felt like that just didn't work. Like it just didn't live up to this expectation that I thought it was. And so now it's just like, kind of don't really buffer, maybe a little bit on the day. Yeah. So just maybe not eating as much on the day, but just kind of being normal and sticking to everything during the week. And then just being more sensible when you're out and about. And I think it was a lot easier to do with food initially than alcohol, because my friends or my family who I would socialize with, they like to drink and I like to drink, and I would just always associate these occasions with drinking. It didn't have to be a night out. It could just be lunch or brunch or anything. And so it was kind of like, how do I start saying I'm not going to participate in that part? Like I found that really hard. So maybe initially I would still order it but not drink it, or drink it really slowly. And now I've come to a point where like there are times and there are occasions where I really would like to have a drink and would really like to enjoy myself. So I'm just kind of picking and choosing when I want to indulge a little bit, but it's not going to be every social. I used to associate every social with indulgence.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's taken a lot of time, but I'm so happy that I've got to this place.
Yeah, now reflecting like so many lessons, like you don't even realize how different you are now to how it is. And I think the only thing that can sometimes drag you back is just regular society's perception of socializing. If you think about, forces that push you forward and towards what you're trying to achieve, and forces that restrain you and pull you back, like just general society will always have this pull back on you. The only reason I'm slipping is because it's the environment that's around you. So you're trying to create your new environment, but the macro environment is always going to be so powerful, and it's going to be somewhere so far further, not behind, but just different to what you're trying to do. And I think that's, until the whole world goes through a bit of a paradigm shift, that's just always going to be the case for anyone trying to do this.
I mean, we're guilty of doing that to each other. I used to do that quite a bit to Nim, like, come on Nim, like have a drink, like just because we're going out. I'm like, come on, let's order a glass of wine, because that's going to make it more fun apparently. But like, no, it doesn't. So there were times where like I would probably say, let's order it. And you probably would then order it, but didn't really want to order it.
Mm-hmm.
But then that would be pointless, because I'm like, well, then we're not enjoying it. So again, we pick and choose when we want to overindulge a bit and when we don't. And I guess being under lockdown for a month, hopefully people are starting to recognize that we can be super social with each other on the phone, through FaceTime, with our partners, which doesn't need to involve that junk food or that alcohol. Like, it's just spending the time with each other and talking to each other.
The funny thing is, I just found out that my mate had a birthday celebration yesterday, and apparently on the house party they got wasted. So it's just funny you're saying all that, and then I literally have this like recent example of people doing. Well, that's fine. Once in a while, I guess. Yeah. Did you want to cover holidays as well, Akash? Or
go ahead if you want to. I was going to touch.
One of the main learnings for me was also holidays, because I remember Miami. Just two examples. Miami came back. That was just before I started my second investment, where I think I learned more than my first. For a second investment where I dialed it in condition-wise, went and probably was not very mindful of how I was going to come back. I was like, doesn't matter. Came back a couple of pounds heavier, had to tidy it up before we started going back to the second investment cycle. Whereas then I had a Morocco trip, another second stag, in the second cycle, and I came in like half a pound lighter. Which basically just shows that all the kind of tips and tricks that have been mentioned about holidays, I remember dialing it in. So I just feel like for anyone doing investment, I mean, if you're doing it first time right, great, but it might just take a second go to learn the lessons, because I think it's harder to embed the habits of a good investment cycle compared to a good fat loss. Because a fat loss is like, it's very binary. It's like dial it in, focus, nail it. Investment's like, no, this is how you're going to live. This is kind of the stage that's going to be much more long term. So you can't have the same level of, you need to have it needs to feel like the decisions you're making are more just regulated by your day to day, rather than something that's targeting towards a goal. I mean, you'll always have a goal, but it's not as short term. So you need to be a bit more. It needs to be a bit more auto-regulated. So that's why the habits that I talked about, I think, will take more time for people to kind of nail it. But that's just my experience.
What are some of the benefits you found of long-term investment phases?
Anything? Well, what do you mean specifically? Do you have any specific kind of categories in mind, or do you?
Yeah, so like you said, it's very binary when you're working towards that checkpoint with fat loss. It's very much like you do this and you get that. With investment, especially if your goal is muscle building and building a lifestyle, which for both of you, it's very similar. You both have similar goals in that you want to build muscle and you want to learn how to keep this around your lifestyle. What are the benefits you've seen long term in order to get towards that, and how do you stay in tune with that goal where it might not be as binary, it might not be as tangible as a fat loss?
Yeah, I think for me, it's basically just the lifetime lessons that investment gives you more than fat loss. Like fat loss gives you lessons about how to get in really good condition. Investment phases give you lessons about how to live your life, and they're more powerful because it's going to be pertinent to you when you're 50, 60, 70. These lessons are going to be with you. Whereas, I think by the time I'm 70, I don't know if I want to go on the grind 12 weeks, I mean, maybe, your dad's doing it. So maybe that's coming in, 40 years time. But I think investment just makes you go, how do I just live my life healthy, period? Staying in shape, keeping strength, setting an example for younger people as well.
Stops you from wanting to diet, wanting to binge, it just, like you said, it just kind of instills these habits within you. And I just really like that. It's just going to be showing us an increase in strength. Like every time you go into the gym, most of the time you're just seeing, like when you're in your fat loss phase, you get excited because you can see little bits of fat coming off. When you're in the investment phase, it's hard to see the muscle building, but you can definitely feel more stronger. And if you're feeling more stronger and you can see the numbers going up there, and it just gives you a bit of a stronger mindset as well. Just definitely overall mindset, and taking away from the fact that it's not just about how you look, it's just general lifestyle as well. I think it's really hard to describe because I think it's become so routine and so much as a new habit for us. It just doesn't feel like something new to talk about.
Yeah. I think one thing is like it just increases my confidence being in a situation now where I'm able to think about getting stronger, because I think I've always been a skinny kid, and so when I was dieting, it was actually obviously you've gone into all the stuff around social stigma, but I was starting to obviously get quite slim, which was obviously throwing people off in terms of like whether this was good for me. Whereas this investment cycle, everyone is just completely bought into. Especially me, because like how confident I am that I'm stronger every week or stronger every month. Like the fact that
in your muscle t-shirts.
Yeah, in my muscle t-shirt. and the
Turns out to the RNT parties in the tightest
Yeah,
t-shirts.
I bought four.
I have to do all this shopping now with this muscle t-shirt.
Yeah, no, because it's just like Akash, I think you've touched on this in your own journey. It's just like you finally got to address those insecurities from when you were a kid, when you were a teenager. Like I was the skinny kid, like alongside like a bunch of insecurities. One of them was about like how you looked and how you felt. Did you feel like you was, kind of scrawny, and so you just didn't feel as confident? Whereas now I just feel like quietly confident about just who I am and what I've achieved. And I think what I've gone through with the physical change has helped with that. Like, just makes me go, I've achieved something. I'm at a place now where I don't have to surface those insecurities as much. They feel quite addressed. I'm sure everyone still has insecurities, but they're definitely not the ones that I had when I was a kid and a teenager.
What about you, Sonayna? In terms of like, have you noticed similar sort of benefits whereby you've had these old lockdowns and insecurities that have been easier to handle?
Definitely a lot easier to handle. Like, I think I've always just suffered a little bit internally in wanting to lose weight, look a certain way, or diet or something like that, and I would just kind of keep that to myself, or lie almost, like, why am I ordering this on the menu, or why am I not eating like everyone else is eating at the moment? And I'd be like, oh, I already ate earlier. I didn't really want to share why I didn't want to eat the same food as everyone else, or why I was working out a little bit more. Like, I even remember one of my best friends said to me one time, like, you're addicted to exercise. Like, all these things just made me want to not just kind of be open about what I wanted. But now, because I really feel more educated and everything, and now because I truly believe that this type of lifestyle and exercise and diet has made me a better person, I'm just more vocal about it. I don't care what people think. I'm just learning to care. I'm just learning to care less what people think, and being more honest with myself. And what I want, what I enjoy. And even if it's not to everyone's taste or people don't agree, then that's not my problem.
Yeah.
And that's just something that I'm kind of learning slowly over time. And for me, that's really big, because I've just suffered for that for quite a long time.
Yeah. No, I'd say your self-confidence is through the roof. Like, you're much more authoritative about what you want, and what you stand for, versus before, where you would kind of be passive about that and let other people.
Less of a people pleaser, less trying to go with the crowd, because that's what you're supposed to do. Just kind of doing my own thing. If you want to follow, you want to follow. If you don't, that's fine. Yeah,
and then the outcome of that is people follow. Yeah. That's the crazy thing. It's all the people. Like, and again, it's something you've referred to. I think there's like a little meme that says first they mock you and then they laugh and then they want to join you. But that story has been so prevalent for us. Like, when I think about the people who first thought that we were crazy are now the people asking us how to do it. And
I think, and it was really hard initially to even be honest with my parents when I started dieting, because I was to them really, really slim, and I was to them already exercising, and it was quite hard to tell my dad initially, because I was living at home at the time, and my dad's territory is the kitchen. He's the Jamie Oliver of the house. He loves to cook. So, by me going to cook my own food, which was like egg whites or prawns, like, it was just a kind of like I did it on the side. I kind of hid what I was doing, and I like hid my weighing scales. It just was like, it wasn't very good. So over time, I just had to kind of come out of my shell and be like, I'm doing this because I want to do this. If you understand, you do, and if you don't, that's fine. And it's taken some time. I think that unless you're on the journey, you're not going to fully understand everything. But I've definitely got my parents on board a little bit more.
Was there a sense of guilt at some point?
Guilt from them or from
knowing yourself? Yeah.
Guilt in terms of like not eating what my parents would cook. Yeah. So I kind of would, is that what you mean?
That, or with food in general. I think earlier you were talking about when you're in occasions, should you be eating this or should you be eating that? And that relationship side of that side of your relationship with food, has that been something that's changed?
Yeah. So you're saying like, so in terms of like having that chocolate bar or having that kind of junk food, if you want to call it, I don't see it.
We've spoken about before that whole concept of guilt around food. But I think that's very powerful. If you can just explain more about the journey you've had with that and what's helped you in that respect. So
you mean what you're trying to say is the food that is that we tend to think is kind of guilty food, like junk food. So so I would, that's definitely a big thing. So I think before this journey, I would feel guilty if I had, like something sweet to eat or junk food, but and then it doesn't make you feel good the next day, and then you want to go on a diet, and then it kind of just that one piece of food and how that makes you feel or how much you ate of that can kind of tip you off for the whole week, and then you kind of do the opposite and try and diet or over exercise or something like that. But now it's a lot easier just to incorporate in my plan. So yesterday evening I had pizza, but I had pizza because I could have pizza. I had the calories for it, and it tasted good. I did not feel guilty after because I had kind of I had worked that around my day. So that's a big thing because it's just a lot of mental changes for sure.
It was a 600 calorie pizza, by the way. I saw the look on that guy being like, what pizza?
No, I'm only kidding. For me, it shows the benefits of long-term investment phases because you get out of that whole dieting cycle. We talked about coming away from buffering, which was a big step for both of you, but especially Sonayna. We were talking about not saving calories for the weekend, and buffering is great for like hard grind phases, but in general life day to day, you don't want to be buffering for the weekends. You want to be being able to use meal hygiene to get you through and keep yourself in shape.
Yeah, for sure.
So in order to make many of these changes, you need to be coachable. And one thing I know Nimalan talks a lot about, we've spoken about on our previous podcast, was the idea of being coachable. What does being coachable mean, and how can you be coachable to this journey or in anything, in any aspect?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things. So for me, coachable is the first thing that I learned about it because I do business coaching. So I can coach. I coach like execs who run like big organizations. And the first thing you need is the willingness to be held accountable. I think that falls into that coachable category. It's just that willingness to be able to say, when I screw up, I'm going to tell the person and I'm going to own up to my mistakes. And I think
honesty.
Yeah, just that honesty.
So much honesty. Just
that honesty to basically say, yeah. And then the second half of that equation is to basically be willing to really put the effort in to correct that mistake, so that when the same issue gets surfaced, you can say what you've done about it. And that is a critical element of when I think of someone being coachable. It's just that willingness to be accountable. If you don't have that accountability with your coach, then that needs to be, then you've got to ask why aren't I willing to be held accountable? Because I think that's critical.
That might be more of a personal issue, that you just don't want to kind of admit it yourself.
Yeah.
So you've got to be true to yourself so you can be true to your coach, I guess.
Second one for me that builds on that is humility. So I think of the only reason you wouldn't want to hold yourself accountable to someone else is like probably just an ego. Like I can imagine that, I don't know if you can share examples where you've ended up with a client, let's say, but their ego is that they know best over you. And so when you get that, well, first is you're not going to trust the guidance of the coach. So you're not coachable in that respect. And then also you're not going to be held accountable. You're not going to be willing to be held accountable because you don't trust their guidance in the first place. So that's another thing. So I would say it kind of humility and accountability are kind of two main elements about being coachable. I mean, I'm trying to think of, I felt like there was a third one, but those are the two big ones that I think. But it would be helpful to understand, Akash, like in your experience, how you've seen people, like you said, who fall into that category and then are successful versus people who haven't. Because I can imagine, whilst you've obviously had lots of people transform, there's the odd few people who don't fall into that bucket who would either disagree with the process or find it tough. I mean, do you have any thoughts on that? Or
I mean, I think humility, ego, and the accountability is key. I think the other thing is, which links to it, is just being open-minded to change and open-minded to new ideas. The kind of links to ego in that respect. But I think being coachable is not only being held accountable, but also being open to the idea of how do I get better? Yeah. Where can I get better? And also being proactive in those questions. I think that's key, rather than just being reactive to whatever your coach may give you. It's like, well, this happened. How do I get better? How do I solve this for next time? I think that's a big part of it. I mean, I've talked about the three keys, right? Commitment, coachability, and consistency. And the reason why coachability is in there is because it's such an important part of the long-term journey. But in any way, in any discipline that you're trying to improve, you need to be coachable, because we all need to be held accountable in order to drive action and drive internal change.
Yeah.
And just the ability to build like a really good relationship with your coach. You don't have to, not just talking about your food that week or your training that week, but because, is something else going on in your life, like is work really bad that week, or family issues or something like that, or relationship problems, because you might not realize, but that might be impacting on your progress. You might be at the gym. There's sometimes when I've been at the gym and I'm like, am I thinking about that, or am I actually thinking about the weight I'm picking up? And I'm not even realizing, because my head's just somewhere else. So it's just kind of just checking in and just saying, had a bit of a tough week. This happened, and then you might be able to give us some tips, or it just might make you understand things a little bit more with us.
Yeah.
But this is actually huge in that for the most part, once you've kind of got training and nutrition, it's always something else that needs to be worked on. Like if we use Nim, for you as an example, we don't really talk much about your diet that often now in training, because you've kind of got that nailed. It's more sorting your other stuff out in order to allow you to do the rest well. Like if we just use, for example, with like sleep, or whether it's your precursors or whether it's your 3S's, it's about getting all these things in place in order to drive the rest. And for most people, I feel the more they can give outside of just the typical training and nutrition, the better they're going to benefit, because that's how they get the performance aspects in all areas of their life, as opposed to just turning up to the gym and eating well, which I think is a very small part of the actual puzzle.
Yeah, but I use the gym performance as a bit of a proxy, because I feel like as soon as my gym performance is down, it's like, well, was it my diet? And it used to be my diet, and then it used to be about social eating, but now it's just wider. So it just acts as a good indicator of like.
It acts as a marker of like how well you're functioning on a day-to-day basis. Like if your strength is going well, you're probably nailing most things in your life. Whereas if it's going down, there's probably a lot of things you need to consider.
100%.
Yeah, and I think it's very important to recognize that. Like I think I mentioned this week to you, like this week, I did like 2 workout sessions, and I was just feeling really weak, and I was getting really frustrated. Why aren't I pushing as strong as I was the weeks before? And I realized after it's because my sleep was really messed up the last few days, or, I've been really stressed about something else. So recognize that. We decided, let's just give myself a break for 2 days, and then I hopefully will be nice and refreshed for tomorrow. So if you keep going and you keep going and you keep going and you're not actually getting anywhere, then that's pointless as well. So it's also good just to take like a bit of a stop and a breather and reset sometimes.
Yeah. I've done a deload as well once. I did a 1 week just fully off, and it just helps reset. So sometimes
obviously talk about that with your coach, like discuss that with them.
Yeah, definitely. Some of the strategies might actually be about doing less for a little bit of time, just to kind of help recalibrate.
Because sometimes it's very easy to get caught in the numbers. Oh God, like I want to, I'm just going to do that extra rep because I just really, really want to, but not really listening to your body, or and then you can end up hurting yourself or damaging yourself. So just kind of be in check with everything as well.
Slow down to speed up.
Yeah, definitely.
Go slow to go fast.
That is a hard thing to kind of instill in yourself, because you're like, no one wants to slow down, do they? Everyone wants to keep going sometimes. You think that missing that one gym day is the end of the world. You're going to lose all your strength. And in reality, is that going to happen? No, you're probably going to get better the next day.
Yeah. You have to think about it, but no, definitely.
Well, to finish up, what's the one piece of advice you'd give to someone who's reached their checkpoint? They've got into really good shape, got into the best shape of their life. What's the best piece of advice you can give them at that stage? Once they've consolidated effectively, and what would you tell them?
Don't lose the basic principles. So you've got to where you wanted to be, and then you're put in a challenging situation socially. For me, it's like, don't let what others think, don't let what others are gonna judge affect anything. Just keep it there. You'll feel really proud of yourself that you did that. There's situations where I've just felt, wow, I didn't drink that day, I didn't do that, and I've woken up the next morning feeling absolutely great, and I can nail my day. So it's just sticking to your gut, sticking to the basic principles, not letting anyone else trying to interfere with your journey thereafter, because you've worked so hard to get there. You don't want to lose that. Yeah,
and actually, just to your point, just to add to that, when you talk about doing that, taking that decision for yourself, I've never heard a scenario where you do that and then feel bad the next day, but we all know, we can all probably attest to the fact that you've taken the other route. You wake up and feel like you regret every decision you took from that point onwards, right? So you're never at a point, just like going to the gym, almost 99% of the time, you don't regret it. Doing what you're saying, you're never waking up in the morning going, oh, why didn't I get absolutely, drunk under the table and enjoy time with my friends? Because you'd still probably get the enjoyment. You're just going to be a little bit more clear-headed the next day. And my one would be, and actually it's almost like reflecting on this podcast. It was like, I thought I hit started to hit a bit of a ceiling in terms of the learning of okay, calories, protein, all the stuff that comes with fat loss. But actually my one advice would be willing to learn about all the things that you're going to learn about in this next phase. They're less tangible than fat loss in terms of educational tips, protein, calories.
It's life lessons.
Yeah, they're life lessons. They are literally life lessons, and so they're just going to take more time to bed in. And the quickest way to bed them in is to be honest, be really open with your coach, and then just listen to them, because that is what's going to help. That's going to help cut, hopefully the next person do better than me and get it right in investment cycle 1, than actually have to go through a little bit of pain and go, learn it in cycle 2 or whatever it might be. So I would just say from the outset, just be ready to stay dialed in, be honest and willing to listen and learn from your coach more than ever, compared to the last probably 12 weeks of what they've been doing.
Amazing. What's next for both of you?
I think at the moment we don't even know with these times. You don't even know. At the moment, I'm not working at all at the moment, so I don't know when I'm going back to work. But I guess that's just giving us time to focus on training a little bit. I've just started a new Instagram page. It's called Raise Your Bar. So it's just kind of a few helpful hints and tips to keep you motivated through this time. So the 3 things that make me feel good are food, fitness, and keeping in check with my mental health. So I'm kind of just posting almost a new tip every day to kind of help increase some positivity there. And
And then for me, I think now that the worst of my work stuff is over, is like I'm so glad I've got some serious dumbbells in here, because I want to start getting some big numbers on those, because then when I want to go back in the gym and just feel like I'm a whole different person in there with some of the lifts that I'm going to do. So I think for me, more than ever, I want to be able to hit some of my target lifts in the next quarter, whilst not spilling over too much and having to cut my investment cycle short, like I probably had to do the last time.
You said you might even do a photo shoot at some point.
Oh yeah, no, we said 2021. I want to give it a good. I don't want to shortcut the process. So when I spoke to Akash, it was like give it the full kind of 12, 24 months. But I'm hoping it's all kind of going to bear fruit in that type of cycle of time. But yeah, I think for me, now that the worst of the work is over, it's just start to get a bit more balance at home and just attack my training more than ever. And try. And
you want to get those 5 reps on the chin ups, yeah?
Huh?
Yeah, definitely.
What, my 5 reps?
Oh, mine.
Oh, yours, yeah.
I hope you can do 5 reps.
Yeah. I actually figured out I use my rucksack to load weights, because you can't use the dip belt. You can't use the dip belt in there. So what I do is I put 20 kilograms in my rucksack, and then I try and do chins. But it's actually easier than the dip belt actually. But
it's closer to you,
yeah,
right?
it's closer to you, and I've been stuck on that for a while, so I'm hoping I can recycle that and get stronger. And like I said, a few of my lifts have got bigger. So by the time I'm coming out of the gym, I'm hoping to start touching dumbbells I haven't touched when I get back in there. I don't know when that's going to be, but yeah.
Awesome. Any parting words?
What's the first thing you're going to do as soon as lockdown's opened?
Well.
Oh, for me? No, you're asking flipping onto me. I was thinking about that just before the podcast, actually. I'm getting the itch to go away again, but I'm sure a lot of people are.
Yeah.
Where do you want to go?
I'm getting a real itch to go away. I want to go to the Philippines.
Yeah. Very good.
Yeah.
Very nice.
That's what I want to do. I've had to cancel probably going to have to cancel New York for the book launch. We've just cancelled, yesterday we cancelled Budapest, which is going to be the book celebration with the boys. So, yeah. What about yourselves?
We had to cancel. I was going to go to the US. Well, we were going to go to the US. The West Coast, we were going to go to, there's a UFC, once a year, there's a mixed martial arts kind of event every July in Vegas. It's called International Fight Week, and we were basically building our trip around that, which obviously
we were, or he was.
I was.
Okay,
yeah.
So for him, he's just turned 30, so it was just he wanted to. That's been his lifelong dream. So it had been going to Vegas for that, and then LA and San Fran. But I don't think.
When were you guys going to go?
July.
July might still be on. Maybe.
What do you think? Yeah, maybe we haven't booked. We were literally. We were about to book it. And the next day, we decided to put it off because we weren't sure. Next day, flights got stood down, lockdown, etc. So yeah, you never know. July it might kick back into gear.
Oh dear. Huh? Trying to get away from that one. No, I'm joking. No, it'll be good. It'll be good.
I think the first thing I'll want to do. I don't know.
I need to get my eyebrows.
I probably would.
Eyebrows and haircut.
Yeah.
Why don't you get Nim to do your eyebrows then?
I tried his eyebrows, but I've got to do his haircut this afternoon.
You said your eyebrows. You don't need to announce to the world I do my eyebrows.
You do eyebrows?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, she's now announced that. Yeah, loads of guys do that. It's fine. Haircut and probably go to Nando's or something. I want to go back to my familiar treats,
Yeah, I'm looking forward to eating a steak out. Although I've been cooking a lot of steak at home recently.
How have you been doing that? Any kind of special equipment or?
I got a skillet at home, so I got a iron skillet, and just buy some ribeyes and put them on this every Friday night. I've had quite a few recently, actually.
No, I never feel like I'm going to do a steak justice like a proper restaurant, so I always resist.
You got to be skilled in the game.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, I still got to try that one place that Akash went to and cut.
Yeah, the cut. I had that actually booked in for my birthday next month, but it's cancelled. You have to bring the cut home.
Yeah, gonna have to. No, so yeah, lots to look forward to, but yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much for being here today on this episode of RNT Fitness Radio. I'd love for you to do a quick little favor for us. Please head over to iTunes and give us a 5-star rating, leave a comment, and share it with your family and friends. If you're interested in learning more about how to transform your body and positively change your life, go to www.rntfitness.com and explore all our free content on offer. Thank you.